Hey, what's cracking everyone? Before I get into today's topic, I want to say something and see how many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Can it run Crysis? Now, if you're a PC gamer or been around a while, PC enthusiast, you'll know exactly what that refers to because growing up, that was kind of what the benchmark was for any GPU CPU combo was, but can it run Crysis? And so that kind of sparked my idea for this video because one of the things that we use to benchmark headphones, IEMs, DACs, amps, any kind of audio gear, part of it is test tracks, right? Or the tracks that we listen to evaluate the gear. Now, yes, I know we have measurements, and measurements really in the past 3 to 4 years have really boomed, and they absolutely have a purpose. You know, for a manufacturer, they definitely have the purpose because that's what they need to evaluate before they spit out the product to all of you guys. And then for us, it gives us a way to visually see something on how it may sound. And I say may, because with PC gaming, with being a PC enthusiast, right? I've grown up. I'm already grown. I'm an adult. And when I go online and I want to look at a new Intel CPU or a new AMD one, or an NVIDIA graphics card or AMD graphics card, I look at that benchmark and I know that if I have the exact same system, when I put it on my screen, give or take a small margin of error, it's gonna be the same deal. You know, if it says it's 142 FPS for Cyberpunk 2077 and I have all the same gear and I'm getting like 140 or 135, yeah, I'm close enough. I'm good with that, right? With headphones, with IEMs, DACs, and amps, that's not quite that simple. You may see that measurement and then you may put it on your head and be like, that's not really what I envisioned hearing. And that's where I think test tracks are so very important, or track recommendations are so very important. And that brings me to actually what the topic of this video is. I say benchmarks, but it's really about test tracks. I want to share my test track list with you guys. And this is an ongoing list of test tracks that I've used. And I'll run through that here in a minute. By the way, in case you need to know, this is through Tidal. That is right now my preferred music streaming service. And believe me, I've tried out plenty of them. Right now I like Tidal the most, but you know, these test tracks, a lot of them are going to be found with multiple platforms of music out there. And as an added bonus in this video, I will be sharing my test track with all of you guys for the publicly share through Tidal. So if you do happen to have Tidal, you can also follow along with me because I constantly will add to this. This is actually one that I created for this video, but these are true test tracks that I use. Make no mistake about that. And we can kind of share along in the journey together with our test track music. Now, this is different than track recommendations, and I want to state that right now. So when I listen to something like the Caldera Closed or this new headphone that's sitting right over here, I may give you a track recommendation that I find through discovery on Tidal. And I do this all the time. I love Tidal's audio discovery or music discovery. It's one of the main reasons why I still have Tidal. And I may come across a song, track, whatever, that sounds just fantastic with said headphone or amp or whatever. And so I'll write that down and that'll become a track recommendation. Or it may sound really unflattering on this headphone, but better on this one. That also could make a track recommendation for the opposite effect. Please understand that track recommendations are just something I like to share with you guys because I think it's cool to discover new music, whereas test tracks may not always be music that I enjoy listening to all the time, but it definitely helps me evaluate gear. And I want to stop right there because I got to be careful with this one too. I don't use music just to evaluate gear. Yes, I think you have to when you're testing out gear, but I definitely want to use the gear to listen to my music because I love music. I enjoy music. That's what got me into this hobby. That's what probably got all of you into this hobby as well. And I think test tracks are just a good, solid foundation, but they aren't necessarily something that I want to listen to all the time. They're just something that's going to be unique that I can always get familiar with. Okay, and so don't worry, I'm not going to go through each track in extensive detail. That would take forever. I kind of grouped these together on this list, and I'm not actually going to cover every track on my test track list, just kind of the main ones. The first one I do want to start with though, because I'm going to start at the low end, kind of like I would any kind of a headphone or IEM review, I want to start with the low end, and one test track I use a lot is called simply Bass Test Track, and the artist is literally Bass Test. The album is Bass Tester. So it's really made for subwoofers in my opinion, and for, testing out car systems and things. So when I usually test out this track, I turn it down on a low volume, and I highly recommend, if you're gonna use this one, to keep it on a low volume first, because this one has a big emphasis of sub bass, and it'll distort even the best bass response out there unless it can truly handle it. The Harmonic Dyne and Zeos Aris headphone can actually handle this test track really well. That's one of the few that I've heard be able to do it. And then I've got some James Blake tracks, Limit to Your Love, Big Hammer. Limit to Your Love is one for good pulsating in your chest, heart beating type bass. It can also show off transient response into the sub bass region. But then if I want some more natural bass, which I think that's very important, I have Why So Serious by Hans Zimmer. Now this is from the Dark Knight soundtrack, and around that 3-minute mark is when you're gonna get that natural sub bass extension. And if it's very full, you've got it with the headphone. If it's not, you don't. And that is what it is. A couple others, Billie Eilish is really good for testing out mid bass in my opinion. Bad Guy especially will give you some boominess of that mid bass, and also is good for testing out slam and impact. And then London Grammar's Hey Now has that big booming moment, not only with their voice, but with the bass response, and can also showcase some of that mid to sub bass boom that you're gonna get out of it. Now that's kind of my short list of test tracks that I'll use for bass response. Now tracks that I'll use for mid-range is pretty different, because a lot of these tracks can do a lot more than just mid-range testing, and there's a lot of technicalities with them as well. Starting with the iconic Fleetwood Mac Rumours album, and that is Dreams. I love listening to this track a lot to test out music, and I still love this track to listen to anyway, but it's so well recorded that you should definitely hear that resolution as you step up in gear. Also, this is a good one to test for cymbals, for splashiness, for vocal presence, and that pop of the drums and snares throughout this track can really be evident or not, depending on the gear that you're gonna use. Excellent track to test. Is It Always Binary by Soulwax. This is kind of a good panning effect, just like Tool's Chocolate Chip Trip is kind of a cool panning effect. So it's more of a imaging type thing, but also an ambience type sound, but also again, transient response, has a lot of that going on. And then just timbre of the instruments, really good to test with Chocolate Chip Trip. And quite honestly, that one's been a little bit overplayed, but it still makes my set list. The Diana Krall Live in Paris album, and more specifically, A Case of You Live. I love testing this track, and it's good mid-range timbre for the piano, but also is a great way to test out atmospheric effects for how maybe wide of stage you're gonna have on a piece of gear. You should hear the ambiance of the audience or the crowd that's sitting along the tables, glasses clanging together, things like that, little bit of chatter here and there. I love testing out that album, but especially that track for that. Leprous. Leprous is an excellent band for dynamic range. And there's a lot of tracks for testing that, but I love how he can go from really quiet to big moments and giving you that booming voice, and the band along with that. That is a big part of the mid-range as well, but it's gonna tell you how well that's gonna match up in that dynamic range when you're testing out a piece of gear. Norah Jones, a lot of her tracks are great to test, but Don't Know Why especially makes my list, because with her music, especially on this track, the first word of the verses can sometimes get harsh or shouty, and that'll tell me if that vocal presence may be a little bit too much, or if there's a little bit too much bite in that upper mid-range. It can kind of get to you. Then I Love You Porgy. For I Love You Porgy, one thing I love about this track is her vocals at the very beginning should be out here, and if they're more up in here, you're gonna know that maybe the stage is a little bit more intimate. Little Wayne, and The Prophet, big difference. From Ainsley Listener and Gary Moore, these are beautiful electric guitar blues tracks that I, again, love to listen to, but they make my test list because these will show you if you have too much bite, it's gonna be a little bit more stabby. And those tracks can really showcase that for me. And I love to test those when I'm testing gear, because if I have a warmer type treble, it won't be as bad. It won't bite me as bad, won't hurt as bad, and then I can truly enjoy that music. And I gotta tell you guys, there's a lot of different things I can test for the high end. Something like Code Cool from Patricia Barber, and don't throw things at me when I say that I just don't enjoy Patricia Barber's music, but she is excellent to test for sibilance. If you got some Beyerdynamic DT1990 Pros and you listen to that music, she's gonna stab you with her sibilance on there. It's pretty bad. Erased by Sunlight by Gogo Penguin and a lot of Gogo Penguin's music. It's actually pretty enjoyable for me to listen to. It's great for instrument separation. There is so many different instruments going on in their music, just like Yoshi Horikawa's music, that actually is great for ambient type sound as well. Imaging Stage, Height, for the track Wondering, I think that one's a great one to test as well. And then talking about classical music, I don't listen to a lot of it. One of them is the Divinity Original 2 soundtrack. Always brings back memories of me playing that game, and I played it start to finish, and one of my favorite games of all time, but it has an excellent soundtrack. And one thing I'm really bummed about is Tidal no longer has the Elden Ring soundtrack on it, and I wish they did because I used to have that entire soundtrack. I think it was like 65 songs. Fantastic score to listen to, and truly well-recorded music as well. Don't fool yourself just because it's a video game. Mr. Blue Sky is one that I love to test. Now this one's kind of back at the mid-range a little bit, but there is that clanging of the fire hydrant sound, and it really tests that 1 to 2K region on any type of gear. I love the track and I love testing it though, because if it's faint in that region, I don't hear that clanging quite as well. If I really hear it, then I know it's elevated there. It's a great way to test that. And kind of going on from there, guys, what I haven't touched on is a lot more of that stage presence and things. Stage is hard. You know, it's not something that can really be graphed. It's something that's going to be heard maybe sometimes differently by us because of the anatomy of our ears and things, but video games. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say it. Like, I love playing video games. The Hunt Showdown video game, I think it's an excellent sound engine. And if you want to test out height and space and all of that, I highly recommend that video game. I suck at it, but it's still fun to play because, you know, people are up on a roof and I'm down below and I hear a shot coming from up there. It may sound different depending on the gear as far as how high that shot or how far away I might be able to hear that shot, how intricate it is. A lot of FPS games are going to help you with that. And then there's some video games that just absolutely suck for their sound engine, and I just kind of move past all of those. But some just may have a fun soundtrack to go along with them as well. All right, and so before I end this video, I am gonna go ahead and share right here. This is my test track list with all of you guys. It is through Tidal, but I'm sure you can probably morph this into whatever service that you use. There's ways to convert that over. And I'll continue to add to this list. I will make this a thing for YouTube, for you guys. So hopefully you'll interact with that and enjoy that. Along with that, I would like to know from you what test tracks that you use that I don't have on my list, because I guarantee there's a lot of them that I didn't list here that you personally use, because I like new recommendations. I like listening to new music, and adding things to my test track list is always beneficial when I'm doing my thing, listening to the things like I have here on the table. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed me sharing my test tracks. If so, please smash that like button. And guys, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Join me. I would highly appreciate that. Hey, I even have a Patreon if you'd like to join that as well and see some behind the scene things and help support the channel further along. Again, I would highly appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video and coming along on this journey with me. And I will see you in the next one.